Stop scrolling for a moment, because if you missed the latest reunion between Dilmurat and Yang Yang, you may have missed one of those rare celebrity moments where almost nothing needs to be said for an entire room to start talking. Watch the details closely, remember the smallest glances, and stay until the end, because what happened between these two stars during their recent brand event reunion has once again reminded fans why their on-screen chemistry remains so difficult to forget. There are celebrity reunions that feel ordinary. Two stars arrive. They smile. They greet each other. They pose for photographs. Then they move on. But sometimes, something completely different happens. Sometimes two people simply standing in the same room can create an atmosphere that feels bigger than the event itself. That is exactly why the reunion between Dilmurat and Yang Yang immediately attracted so much attention. The cameras were already waiting. The lights were shining across the venue. Guests were settling into their places. The atmosphere had the polished elegance expected from a major brand gathering. Everything appeared carefully arranged. And then Dilraba and Yang Yang appeared within the same event space. Suddenly, the attention shifted. It was not because either of them needed to make a dramatic entrance. It was not because they performed some extraordinary act. It was because fans recognized something familiar. That familiar feeling was chemistry. The kind of chemistry that does not require a scripted conversation. The kind that can appear in a glance, a smile, a pause, or even in the way two people acknowledge each other's presence. For fans who remember their previous screen pairing, seeing them together again created an almost cinematic feeling. It was as if a familiar chapter had suddenly reopened. And that is where the fascination began. Dilraba has always possessed a presence that makes it difficult for cameras to look anywhere else. Whether she is walking onto a red carpet, appearing at a fashion event, or simply standing among other celebrities, she has an unmistakable ability to command attention without appearing to demand it. Yang Yang has a similar quality. His presence is controlled, elegant, and remarkably composed. When these two qualities exist in the same room, something interesting happens. Their individual star power does not cancel each other out. Instead, it seems to amplify the atmosphere around them. That is why their recent reunion became such a talking point. There was no need for a dramatic announcement. No need for an elaborate performance. No need for a long conversation in front of the cameras. The reunion itself was enough. One of the most fascinating aspects of their interaction was how natural the atmosphere appeared. There is a difference between two celebrities standing beside each other because an event requires it, and two familiar stars appearing genuinely comfortable around one another. Fans are extremely sensitive to that difference. They notice where someone looks. They notice how quickly a smile appears. They notice whether a greeting feels formal or warm. They notice the smallest pause between one moment and the next. And with Dilraba and Yang Yang, those tiny details once again became the center of attention. The cameras captured moments that might have lasted only seconds. But sometimes seconds are enough. A glance can last less than a heartbeat and still become the moment everyone remembers. A smile can appear for only an instant and still change the entire mood of a photograph. A simple greeting can suddenly remind millions of viewers of everything they loved about two performers appearing together on screen. That is the strange power of celebrity chemistry. It does not always arrive with fireworks. Sometimes it arrives quietly. Sometimes it is hidden inside ordinary gestures. And sometimes the quieter the interaction, the more people become fascinated by it. For many fans, Dilraba and Yang Yang have always represented one of those unforgettable pairings where visual harmony and performance chemistry seemed to work almost effortlessly. Their previous work together created a strong fan following because their characters had a dynamic that was easy to watch. There was elegance. There was tension. There was humor. There was warmth. And most importantly, there was a sense that the two performers understood how to make a scene feel alive. So when they eventually appeared together again at a brand event, fans naturally looked beyond the official purpose of the gathering. They wanted to see the reunion. They wanted to see whether that familiar energy would still be there. And judging by the attention surrounding their appearance, many viewers felt that something familiar was still present. The fascinating part is that neither star appeared to be trying too hard. That may have been what made the interaction even more interesting. When celebrities deliberately create a dramatic moment, audiences can usually recognize the performance. But when two experienced performers simply behave naturally, the audience begins interpreting every little detail. That is exactly what happened here. A smile became a talking point. A glance became a discussion. A shared moment became a memory. And suddenly, an ordinary brand appearance felt like a reunion scene from a story fans had never completely moved on from. Imagine the venue for a moment. Bright lights are reflecting across the stage. Cameras are moving from one celebrity to another. Photographers are calling for poses. Guests are surrounded by conversations. Then the camera catches Dilraba and Yang Yang in the same frame. For a moment, everything else seems less important. That is the kind of scene fans remember. Not because something enormous happened, but because the two stars looked like they belonged in the same frame. Their visual contrast is part of the fascination. Dilraba brings a graceful and striking elegance. Yang Yang brings a calm and refined presence. Together, their appearances create a balance that photographers naturally love. But photographs alone cannot explain why fans become so invested. The real fascination comes from memory. Fans do not see only the two celebrities standing at a brand event. They remember the characters. They remember the scenes. They remember the conversations. They remember the moments when a simple look between fictional characters seemed to say more than an entire paragraph. That history changes the way audiences experience a reunion. A single glance at a modern brand event can suddenly carry the emotional weight of an earlier story. It becomes almost impossible not to compare the present with the past. And that is why their reunion felt so significant to many fans. There is also something fascinating about the restraint between them. Neither Dilraba nor Yang Yang needs to prove anything. Both have already established themselves as major names in the entertainment industry. Both have built careers that extend far beyond any single collaboration. Their reunion, therefore, does not need to be presented as a dramatic event. It can simply exist. And perhaps that is what makes it so compelling. Two successful performers meeting again. Two familiar faces sharing the same space. Two people whose previous professional connection remains memorable to audiences. That alone can create an atmosphere. Fans have also become increasingly skilled at noticing subtle celebrity interactions. In an era when almost every public appearance is photographed and recorded, people can replay moments repeatedly. A short clip can be watched hundreds of thousands of times. A photograph can be examined from every angle. A few seconds can become the subject of countless conversations. This is especially true when the people involved already have a strong history together. The audience is no longer simply watching the event. They're looking for the details. They're asking what happened before the camera moved. They're wondering whether the smile was spontaneous. They're noticing whether one person reacted to the other. They are comparing the latest reunion with older appearances. And that creates a fascinating cycle. The more people look, the more details they think they find. The more details they find, the more conversations begin. The more conversations begin, the bigger the reunion becomes. That is how a few quiet moments can transform into a major fan discussion. Yet there is an important distinction worth remembering. Chemistry does not automatically mean romance. A strong connection between two performers can exist because they understand each other's rhythm. It can come from friendship, professional familiarity, shared experience, comfort in front of cameras, or simply the ability to create an appealing dynamic together. Fans may have their own interpretations, but the real magic is that the moment can be enjoyed without forcing it into a single explanation. Perhaps that is why Dilraba and Yang Yang remain so fascinating together. Their chemistry can be appreciated as performance chemistry, visual chemistry, professional chemistry, or simply the unmistakable familiarity between two stars who once shared a memorable project. The reunion becomes more interesting because nothing needs to be officially defined. The audience can simply watch. And watching them together again naturally brings back memories. There is something almost nostalgic about seeing two actors associated with a beloved pairing return to the same visual space. It can feel like opening an old photo album. One image brings back another. One expression reminds fans of a character. One smile recalls a particular scene. One moment makes people wonder what another collaboration between the two could look like. That final question may be the most powerful part of the entire reunion. What would happen if Dilraba and Yang Yang shared the screen again? Would the chemistry feel exactly the same? Would it become even stronger? Would they play completely different characters? Would they surprise everyone with a new genre? Would they create a mature story far removed from their earlier work? These questions are not difficult to understand. When two performers have already proven that they can create memorable chemistry, audiences naturally become curious about what they could accomplish again. But until such a project exists, their public reunions become small reminders of what once made their pairings so captivating. The recent brand event, therefore, became more than another appearance on a crowded celebrity calendar. For many viewers, it became a moment of recognition, a reminder of an unforgettable screen pairing, a reminder that chemistry can survive beyond a single drama, and a reminder that sometimes the smallest interaction can create the biggest reaction. Perhaps the most beautiful thing about the reunion was its simplicity. There was no need for an elaborate stage, no need for a carefully constructed storyline, no need for exaggerated gestures. Two familiar stars were simply present at the same event. Yet the moment carried an energy that fans immediately recognized. That is the kind of chemistry that cannot easily be manufactured. It develops through timing, through shared experience, through understanding how another performer reacts, through knowing when to step forward and when to let the other person shine. Dilraba and Yang Yang have both reached a level in their careers where they understand the power of subtlety. They do not need to fill every second with movement. They know that a camera can capture a quiet expression just as effectively as a dramatic pose. And perhaps that professional maturity is another reason their reunion felt so polished. The event may have been organized around a brand, but for fans, the story became about the reunion. The brand may have provided the stage, the celebrities provided the moment, and the audience provided the meaning. That is how entertainment works at its most fascinating. A planned event creates an unplanned reaction. A short interaction becomes a memorable scene. A simple photograph becomes a conversation. And two celebrities standing together can suddenly remind an entire fan community why they became invested in their pairing in the first place. There is also something powerful about seeing successful actors return to familiar territory without needing to recreate the past. Dilraba is no longer exactly the same performer audiences first encountered years ago. Yang Yang has also continued evolving. Their careers have moved forward. Their experiences have expanded. Their performances have changed. Their public images have matured. Yet when they appear together, the old familiarity can still surface. That balance between nostalgia and growth is what makes the reunion so interesting. It does not feel like a complete return to the past. It feels like the past briefly meeting the present. And that is much more intriguing. The audience gets to see the stars they know today while remembering the characters that first made their pairing special. It creates two timelines inside one moment. The performers standing before the cameras now, and the fictional characters living in the memories of their fans. That is why the smallest gesture can suddenly feel enormous. The moment does not belong only to the present. It carries echoes of everything that came before. For fans who have followed both stars closely, that can be incredibly powerful. A familiar smile can bring back an entire era. A shared frame can bring back favorite scenes. A simple reunion can revive conversations that seem to have disappeared. And suddenly, everyone is talking again. What makes this even more fascinating is the fact that modern celebrity culture has transformed the way audiences experience these moments. In the past, a reunion might have been remembered through a few photographs published in magazines. Today, one moment can travel across the world almost instantly. A short clip appears. Fans share it. Others analyze it. Photographs circulate. Comments multiply. Old scenes are revisited. Edits are created. Memories return. Within hours, an event that lasted only a short time can become part of a much larger online conversation. Dilraba and Yang Yang are both experienced enough to understand the attention that comes with appearing together. But regardless of what fans choose to believe about their interaction, the safest and most interesting conclusion is also the simplest. They looked comfortable sharing the same space. Their reunion reminded audiences of their established professional chemistry, and their presence together was enough to awaken a wave of nostalgia. Sometimes that is more than enough. The beauty of an unspoken moment is that it leaves room for the audience. Nothing is completely explained. Nothing is forced. Nothing is handed to viewers with a clear beginning and ending. Instead, the audience gets to interpret the atmosphere. They get to remember. They get to wonder. And they get to imagine. That is exactly why the phrase unspoken chemistry feels so appropriate. Because chemistry is often most noticeable when nobody is trying to explain it. It exists between the lines. It lives in the pauses. It appears in the small reactions. It can be found in the way two people naturally occupy the same frame. And when the two people involved are Dilmurat and Yang Yang, fans are naturally going to pay attention. Their recent brand event reunion may have been brief, but its impact was anything but small. For some viewers, it was simply a polished celebrity appearance. For others, it was a nostalgic reminder of a beloved screen pairing. For many fans, it was an invitation to imagine what could happen if these two stars ever returned to the screen together. And perhaps that is the real reason the reunion continues to fascinate people. It left a question hanging in the air. Could there be another story? Another drama? Another unforgettable scene? Another moment where Dilraba and Yang Yang stand across from each other and once again make the camera feel like it has discovered something special? Nobody knows. And that uncertainty is part of the excitement. Until then, fans will continue watching their individual careers, celebrating their achievements, and paying attention whenever their paths cross. Because when two performers have created a memorable connection once, audiences never completely stop wondering what might happen if they share the spotlight again. The recent brand event reunion did not need a dramatic confession. It did not need a shocking announcement. It did not need a complicated explanation. It only needed two familiar stars in the same room. The cameras did the rest. The fans did the rest. The memories did the rest. And suddenly, a few quiet moments became one of the most talked about aspects of the event. That is the strange and wonderful power of chemistry. Sometimes it is loud. Sometimes it is obvious. And sometimes it is almost completely silent. Yet somehow everyone notices. So if you have ever wondered whether Dilmurat and Yang Yang could still create that unforgettable feeling when they appear together, this reunion may have given fans the answer they were secretly hoping for. The magic was not in a grand performance. It was in the atmosphere. It was in the familiarity. It was in the tiny moments that cameras captured and fans immediately recognized. And perhaps most importantly, it was in the feeling that for a brief moment, two worlds met again. The world of the stars they have become, and the world of the characters fans still remember. That is why this reunion matters. Not because it confirms anything beyond what was actually shown. Not because every glance has a hidden meaning. But because it reminds us that great screen chemistry can leave an impression long after a story ends. And when two actors with that kind of history meet again, even a quiet moment can feel like the opening scene of a story that has not yet been written. So now the question belongs to the fans. Would you want to see Dilmurat and Yang Yang reunite for another drama? Would you choose romance, historical drama, modern mystery, or something completely unexpected? Would their chemistry feel even stronger after all these years? Share your thoughts, revisit your favorite moments from their previous collaboration, and tell everyone what kind of story you would want these two stars to create if they ever shared the screen again. Because if their recent brand event reunion proved anything, it is that sometimes the most unforgettable scenes are the ones where almost nothing is said.